Welcome to Unleash Leadership, the podcast where bold leaders and changemakers come together to share their stories, strategies, and insights for creating a lasting impact on society. Karla Blanco is your host. For over 28 years, she has been navigating the complexities of the corporate and government worlds, a journey that's taught her that authentic leadership isn't just about climbing the ladder. It's about lifting others as you rise. Along the way, she uncovered the unwritten rules that drive success, the ones no one tells you about, but that can define your career and legacy. On this podcast, she'll sit down with extraordinary guests from around the globe, leaders, visionaries, and innovators who are leaving their mark on the world. Together, they'll explore their journeys, uncover their tips and tricks, and dive into the challenges they've overcome to inspire you to excel in whatever you're facing. Whether you're climbing the corporate ranks, building your personal brand, or leading change in your community, this podcast is your space to grow, learn, and unleash the leader within. So grab a notebook, get ready to take action, and join us on this journey to unleash our leadership potential. Before we dive in, make sure to follow Karla on Instagram, LinkedIn at Karla Blanco Coach, Karla with a K, and YouTube at Karla Blanco Show to stay connected and get even more leadership tips and updates.
I am honored to introduce Mark Andrew, who is the author of Leading Through the Heat, drawing from his extensive career with the Dearborn Fire Department in Michigan, having served as a firefighter, paramedic, and company officer. Mark shares essential leadership lessons transitioning from the firehouse to the corporate world. His writing emphasizes the importance of leading by example, maintaining a presence, and fostering crew trust. Mark offers practical wisdom on mentorship, accountability, and the leaders it lasts philosophy to inspire future leaders. Welcome, Mark. It's an honor to have you here. Mark, share about your story, when everything started.
Actually started when I was a child. My father was a firefighter, and so I got a little bit of a taste of what that job entailed. It looked like fun. It looked like a good living. I developed an interest in it, and so immediately out of high school, I went to some trade schools and picked up a basic EMT certification. Started working for a private ambulance service, kind of building my resume, learning some basic job skills. And then from there, I went to another community college and took a fire academy class, and then upgraded my basic EMT license to paramedic. And then over the course of 5 to 7 years of just building a resume and applying to departments, I eventually got hired in actually the same city my father worked. So I ended up being on the department with him for about a year until he retired.
Oh, nice. That's so nice. And thank you for your service.
Well, it's a
And
wonderful career. So I was so happy to have not only done it, but worked for the city of Dearborn. It was really a great experience.
thank you. And congratulations for your book. That is exciting. And actually, I would like to go into that with some questions for you. And you mentioned some horrible bosses. And I would like you to share how those horrible bosses help you become a leader who never ask their team to do something they will not do themselves. I think that's a great point.
It actually started very organically. Whether it was before I worked in the fire service at various jobs, I had dealt with some good leaders and some bad leaders, and was completely subconscious. But I was unknowingly keeping a little mental inventory of things that I thought worked well and didn't work well. When I had about a 2 to 3 years on at my fire department, I'd been in EMS and was part-time in another department. And so I had a little bit of job experience, but not full-time job experience. But at that 2 to 3 year mark, I noticed me and my other peers of the same seniority would find ourselves in a lot of conversation after a call, if a call went well, if a call didn't go well. And we were sharing experiences about if I'm ever provided the opportunity to be an officer on this job, here's how I would like to do it differently. And then it became a conscious thing. Oh wow, I'm keeping this mental list of all of these things that didn't work. And I was preparing myself unknowingly all those years for how to be a more effective leader. And not better or worse, but I think more effective in communicating and listening and being empathetic, and then also getting the job done.
Thank you. And on those notes, I bet one of the notes you made is aligned with this quote you have on the book. The bigger the badge, the bigger the shield. How does a leader practically protect their team and take responsibility when things go wrong?
In the fire service, you would think it would be easy. This isn't a Fortune 500 company with millions or billions of dollars on the line where CEOs and golden parachutes and VPs could just get terminated and go to the next company. It's very hard to get fired in municipal fire service. They generally want to work with people through mistakes. So it always shocked me that I had some bosses that would let me take the blame to the point of physically passing a telephone over to me from a screaming officer who's mad about something and then handing the phone to me. And I'm sitting there going, "What? Why are you giving me this phone? You're the boss. This is your phone call." And they're just deflecting. And so I made that conscious decision a few times, being caught in the line of fire of the wrath of whoever's mad, that if I'm ever have the chance to be an officer, I will stand in front of this wrath. I will not let this trickle down to the people behind me. I was delegated with the task, and regardless of who made a mistake, the buck stops with me. And I need the crew to see that I'm willing to take those shots. Because in a practical sense, nothing's going to happen. Well, they're going to put a letter in my file. So what? I've already made it to officer. I've already made it up the chain a little bit. So I should have a little bit of cachet, if not actual human resources and legal protection. I just couldn't wrap my head around why so many bosses when I was younger were so afraid of getting in trouble.
Well, I think it's part of growing the leadership because real leaders, they take accountability for their teams and help the teams
Mhm.
to learn.
Yes,
And
they do.
going back to your point of presence and being there for the team, talking about that presence and hands-on, like helping clean up after a tough job without becoming a helicopter boss who micromanage. How can leaders become more of that present um, support for their teams?
Uh, an old 90s buzzword phrase was management by walking around. And it was more set up for factories and stores to get that manager out of the office and get out there and work the floor and watch what's going on physically. Don't be lulled into the safety of your office with the closed door. For me, that was a natural part of who I am. So that was an easy thing. I like the job. I like doing it. And I enjoy the crew aspect of what we do. So it was very easy for me to want to participate, whether it's in a project around the fire station or cleaning up after a house fire or picking up the hose in the street. I enjoyed being part of the team. Uh, what took work as a leader was then drawing that line to when I have legitimate job functions to do, being able to tell the crew, I have to go over here because my job needs me there. Do you guys have this handled? And then having that confidence that it will be handled. And that goes back to training and preparing and making sure that they are ready. But then I noticed the benefit from that was the crew now sees that I trusted them and they don't need me to micromanage. And so now they're developing not only their own skill on the job, the senior people that are running the project are developing their own leadership style.
Right. Yeah, you are empowering them and
Hmm.
unleashing their potential. Thank you for that. And sometimes we find workers or people doing the bare minimum. How do you know when to keep coaching them and when it is time to let them go?
It's an that is a very, very tough one because a lot of people are really good at their job and they can do their focus of the job well. But there are times in which, say in the fire service, for example, we get a new hire and they're going to need some extra training. And some people are very suited to taking this young person under their wing and in developing them, coaching them, mentoring them. And other people are not. They just want to do their job and then clock out at the end of the day. There's nothing in the rules and regs that say you have to go above and beyond. And if I'm pushing people to keep being that go-getter, but it's not part of their nature. I found after maybe months to a year of me just spinning my wheels, they're not going to be that go-getter. All I'm doing is wasting my time. I can't discipline them because they're not doing anything wrong, but I'm also taking my time away from the crew who does want to go above and beyond. And there's nothing wrong with people that are good at their job and want to stay expert at that level. Not everybody wants to aspire to be a company officer, a lieutenant, a captain, or a chief. So I learned there are times where you do need to kind of just let it go and uh, without any animosity, just let people be themselves and let the go-getters be the go-getters. Let the people that are just focused on their tasks just excel at those tasks. I don't need everybody to be the go-getter.
Okay, so let it go is, well, they are doing their job, but they
Hmm.
are not inspired to do another additional thing. So they are there just to do the bare
Right.
minimum.
And I saw that in prior careers too. There would be people that were always putting in extra effort, taking projects home to finish them on their own time. And there were people that just punched the clock at 9 and punched out at 5 o'clock. And while they did their jobs and they weren't breaking any rules, they just weren't going to be that above and beyond person. But in the end, I mean, how much time do I want to spend as a manager trying to change their internal personality, where more than likely I'm just going to spin my wheels for a year and fail anyway, where there's really nothing in a disciplinary sense that they're doing wrong. So I tend to more focus on the people that I can reach and the people that do want to become future leaders and future officers.
You can help those that let you help them. Yeah.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Mhm. And why does the simple act of eating last build such deep trust and show that the team and show the team that you value them more than yourself?
Well, in the military, eating last for officers is baked into the culture. In the fire service, a lot of the people I came up the line with believed in that a lot, but it had to be something that we led by example because it wasn't a natural portion of officer training. To me, there's a practical sense to it, on top of just the feeling the crew gets. The feeling the crew gets is that I value them,
Mhm.
their nutrition, their break, uh, and their time more than I value my own. So if they're going on 911 calls on the ambulance all day long, I personally found it a little rude to cut to the front of the dinner line when dinner was ready. They've been going on ambulance runs, which usually in a fire service double the amount of fire truck runs, because as the officer, I was on the fire truck. The junior members were on the ambulance. So they're working way harder than I'm working. They deserve the meal more than me. And two, our staffing changes. Sometimes a rig breaks down. And so we've got to send somebody over here, or the rig breaks down at the other station, or somebody goes home sick. And so, or a rig all of a sudden is fixed at the mechanic. So we have now have an extra ambulance or fire truck at my station. So they're going to bring in some more people in the middle of the day to staff that truck. And so there's a legitimate chance that at dinner time, the staffing has changed enough where we might run out of food. And it's
Mm-hmm.
very important for me that if we do run out of food, they will never go without. I will go without.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is important so that leaders can use that judgment of it, well, to have everything in place for them to be performing to their best, and sometimes that required us some sacrifices in some moments. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
And I would like you to share or comment about this analogy for understanding. In the sources, leadership is described much like tending a garden rather than playing a game of chess. Instead of a chess master, who controls every individual move, an effective leader acts as a gardener who cultivates the environment, provides the necessary resources, and then trusts the plants to grow on their own. This is from General Stanley McChrystal. In Team of Team, I think is his book.
Yes, it
Mhm,
is.
So
Yeah, it was
can
a
you
great quote. Yeah, it was a great quote, and I just couldn't help but use it because I legitimately believe in it. This goes back to the question about being present and hands-on without micromanaging. And it's a buzzword in so much management nowadays to always be empowering your team. Um, I do believe in that because the officers, when I came up, that were micromanaging everything, that were making every decision, that were constantly defensive about any decisions we would make, I always found was more about their insecurity than it was about our knowledge of the job. And so by being present and hands on, yes, that's a good thing, but knowing when to delegate and not micromanaging is hugely important because if I do all the tasks, one, they're never going to get a chance to learn those tasks. If if I do all of the tasks or manage all of the tasks, they'll actually never get a chance to make any mistakes. And sometimes learning from mistakes are some of the best learning opportunities. We don't want catastrophes to happen, certainly, but allowing them to work in a field and then we could critique when we get back to the fire station were some of the best learning opportunities we had. And I found that by giving people tasks, uh, whether it be a project or an assignment on a fire ground. A common one would be we have the new guy, and we're at a scene, and he was struggling with this very heavy ladder. And so I went to the two senior firefighters and said, "Hey, I noticed that at that one scene, he didn't have his ladder carry good, and he was really kind of uncoordinated in how he got. He got the job done, but I think there's a way we could work on this." And one of the senior firefighters says, "Oh, I know a really good ladder exercise." Then I would say, "Do you need me to get involved in any way?" And I would just practically lay it out there. And then most of the time they would say, "No, Captain, we got it." And then now I know that they are trusted and they'll
mhm,
take that trust and then be empowered by it. So they can now dive deeply into this training, knowing that they're fully authorized to do so. And so now they're buying into the training. And then they're not only buying into the training, they're buying into how this young guy develops. They're taking a personal account of in a personal relationship with how the young person is progressing on the job. It's not just punching a clock 9 to 5. They're now taking an invested interest in this young man's career. And now that doesn't mean that as a leader that I could just go sit in the office and then just assume everything's done. I've always found if I'm going to delegate and not micromanage, at
Mhm.
least follow up. So then I would wait till the end of the day and say, oh, hey, senior guy, how did that training exercise go? And they would say, oh, we did A, B, and C, and it went really well. We did D, he needs a little bit of work. Let's revisit that next shift. And then so they see I do trust them, but I'm still going to at least be in touch. And I've always found that's a nice balance because I've seen too many officers who don't want to micromanage to the point of delegating everything on the young guys.
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
doesn't work either because you could swing too far in that direction. And then when there's a problem, I have seen some managers in the fire service and in prior jobs, when something falls apart and the boss gets mad, the manager will go, nobody came and told me about it. I didn't know this was going on. And that's just horrible leadership. You got to stay present enough to at least know what's going on, even
Mhm.
when you're delegating.
Yeah. Trust and verify. And can you share what unleash leadership means for you?
Um, I'm going to touch on a prior guest you had. Her name is Karla Johnson. I love the way she said, you don't need a title to be a leader.
Mhm.
And for me, unleashing leadership is a lot of that. Like we said in the last question, cultivating. Um, I'm as a leader cultivating other people's ability on the job. I'm giving them little tasks and watching them grow. I'm stepping in when needed. I'm stepping in enough to let the crew know that I do know these tasks. I am familiar
Mhm.
with these standard operating procedures. I am familiar with these medical protocols and these drug doses and these cardiac algorithms, but I don't need to manage all of it. So I want to stay present enough so they trust me, but I'm still cultivating the young people's jobs. So when I unleash leadership, I see it as unleashing the next generation to start learning their leadership skills and their leadership traits so they can grow on the job. So when we hire new people, those rookies, those young men and women that come into the fire service or EMS service, they now have got experienced mentors and coaches that maybe aren't officers, but they're just the senior person on the crew. And when we get that young person on the job, they can now trust that senior person because that senior person is trusted as well.
Mentoring is so important, and leaders
Mhm.
create leaders. Thank you, Captain, for your time. Thank you for all the wisdom shared, and looking forward to connect soon.
This was so much fun. What a great conversation. You've got a really, really nice podcast. And I just love the discussions you have and the diversity of thought that you bring on the show.
Thank you.